Well, hello, everybody. It is time for MLB Live Before Lock. It's Friday night. Eric and I talking a little bit about weekend plans before we get started here. But before we get there, we got to break down tonight's MLB slate for you. We got to build some lineups. We got to talk about what's in those lineups. We've got, for a 12-game slate, this is a pretty decent amount of chalk. To give you guys a little bit of an overview here, we've got Tarik Skubal. He is projected for 43% ownership, so he's your chalk at pitcher. And then if we head on over to the stacks, we've got a couple of very popular stacks on the slate because Antonio Senzatella, friend to opposing batters, he is pitching in Coors Field today. So as a result, we got the Mets 15% owned. The Baltimore Orioles are going up against JP Sears, so they're 13% owned. This is a lot of chalk we're looking at tonight, Eric.
Yeah, he was scratched. He's not even pitching.
Senzatella. That just happened?
Happened a couple hours ago. It was like 2 hours ago, maybe. But Antonio Senzatella is not pitching baseballs today. It's going to be somebody else. Let me find everything because this is the spot that we want to be talking through the most.
Yeah. So one sec. Let me.
Ryan Rollison will open for the Rockies on Friday.
But is Senzatella not still pitching though?
He might be. He might be behind it, but he got scratched, I believe. I saw the news come through a lot earlier today.
Let's see. I thought he was still expected to pitch behind Rollison.
Yeah, he's going to probably pitch behind him, but yeah, I mean, he's going to be the main guy. He's going to get an opener.
Okay, but
it's just going to change the handedness in like an annoying way. But I just wanted to point out that Antonio Senzatella, while he's expected to potentially be there, he was the wording was scratched for what it's worth.
So here is a Rockies beat reporter. The Rockies will go with Ryan Rollison as an opener for Antonio Senzatella tonight. Let's see.
Is Eric sitting on the floor? I sure am. Here's the thing. We're at this beautiful Airbnb. It's fantastic, but this is the best spot where it doesn't echo like crazy. So you can actually hear me. I can have all my equipment together. I can have my microphone here. I can have like decent lighting where it's not like me sitting in a cavern. It was either that or put like a bougie fireplace behind me. And I was like, I'm going to be a man of the people today and like focus on my work rather than like being perfectly aesthetic. So here we are.
So I can't find anywhere that Senzatella was scratched. Okay. From a beat reporter, I'm like 99% sure he's pitching tonight.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure he's going to pitch too, but he's not starting anymore. And we had him.
Oh yeah, yeah. I don't care about that. I just care about who they're going to be facing. Okay. So Antonio Senzatella pitching. That's why you got the Mets. If it was somebody else on the mound, the Mets would still be popular. I don't think they'd be quite this popular though. So 15% ownership going to the Mets anyway. 13% ownership going to the Orioles. So that's what we got for chalk on the slate. As far as any other concerns on the slate, whether it be weather or other thoughts, anything else that you are considering other than just the massive chalk spots that we have?
No, bringing it up now. Let me just double check one spot because Arizona Cincinnati has some bad weather, but there's a world where I still just kind of roll it out. And because it is the first wave of games, for me, I'm not going to be able to late swap after like 6 p.m. my time, so 9 p.m. Eastern time. And so like, I do think, whatever happens here with these early games with this early weather, it's nice that it's the first game, but otherwise I have no considerations for anything else the rest of the slate.
So let's go ahead and start looking at some of the pitchers. And I mean, here's the overall big thing we have to talk about when it comes to a pitcher like Tarik Skubal today, because he is the most popular pitcher on the slate for good reason. He has been incredible this season. However, there are other considerations to make here as well. Most notably, we just talked about the Mets. They are really popular. They are going to be, around 15% owned. Antonio Senzatella, while not starting, is expected to pitch the bulk of the innings there. But it's pretty hard to pay up for pitching and pay up for the Mets. Also, Tarik Skubal is 43% owned. So with all those considerations, Eric, what do you want to be doing with Tarik Skubal in tournaments today? Cash games isn't easy to just say you play him. What do you want to do in tournaments with him relative to this ownership?
I'm probably still going to get to a decent amount, but I'm going to be slightly underweight. So I'm playing 150. I'm right now getting right around 38%. We'll see as we continue on, but like 11-5 with Coors and so many other stacks that exist now, it's just not the priority I expected him to be. And Schwellenbach in San Francisco. Yeah, I bet San Francisco for what it's worth. Hayden Birdsong, I think, just really underappreciated in that game environment. Will Warren is a decent enough option. Like, Skubal does stand out. He's been the best pitcher in baseball for like 2 years now, a year and a half for sure. But I'm kind of in a spot where either you just kind of hold hands with the field in single entry. I mean, is it one of those guys that even at like 60%, you probably click on? I think you do. But right now I'm slightly underweight.
Yeah. For people who are wondering, Eric is actually doing the show. The truth is he's doing the show from the bathroom. He's been put in timeout because of some of his comments about Antonio Senzatella. And this is the timeout area of the place he's staying. That's what's happening here. He's in timeout for now, though. He's just sitting on the floor. Maybe we'll upgrade him to a chair later. Who knows? For now, probably though, not. He's in brief in timeout. Here's the good thing, though. We've got, because of Eric's timeout, he wants to give back to all of you guys. He made this very clear to me 7 seconds ago. Now, here's what he has proposed to give back to you all. Big UFC card tomorrow. UFC 316. Merab Dvalishvili in the main event against Sean O'Malley. And our max monthly packages, both 50% off with the promo code 316 for tomorrow's big fight card, which there's been a lot of not so great UFC cards as of late. But upcoming, we have a ton of really, really good fights, beginning with UFC 316. So listen to these main events, Eric. We've got the pay-per-view tomorrow, Sean O'Malley against Merab Dvalishvili. That's your main event. The week after, Kamaru Usman against Joaquin Buckley. That's the next main event. Then you've got Jamal Hill taking on Khalil Roundtree in Azerbaijan. That is the next main event. And then, because there are 2 pay-per-views this month, June 28th, Ilia Topuria against Charles Oliveira taking place at UFC 317. I believe that is International Fight Week this year. Usually it's in July. This year it's taking place in June. So the next month, 2 big pay-per-view cards. You've also got 2 really, really big fight night cards. So that's why we're doing this promo right here. For monthly core or max package, 50% off, promo code 316. This deal is going to be expiring tomorrow at midnight. So take advantage of it before it expires. If you guys are looking to play MMA DFS, this should be a really good month for the UFC after, some subpar cards as of late. It kind of happens, though. I know that there isn't an off season necessarily really for the UFC. They do take time off around the holidays, but there are kind of like down seasons, and that's kind of what May was. And then you got a really, really stacked upcoming slate of fights. So just went over the next month, and then you get into July where you got Max Holloway against Dustin Poirier 3. So lots of really, really big fights coming up. So check out that promo. UFC 316 is going to be tomorrow. So for me, when it comes to Skubal, Eric, I currently have him in, 48% of lineups in the last run of Sims that I did. So I'm like right in line with the field. Usually a pitcher like this, who's a really safe pay-up option, I like to be overweight to them. It's just really hard because I also like the Mets a lot for large field tournaments. So ended up just being a little bit overweight to the field. If I had to change anything manually, it would be more of Skubal. It's just kind of not hard to do, not easy to do with the offenses that I like. Are there any pivot options on the high end if you're looking to get off of Skubal? So you look at the other pay-up options. You got Schwellenbach is 17% owned. Sonny Gray is 9% owned. Kind of surprised he's 9% owned on a slate this size, pitching against the Dodgers. And then you got Kodai Senga, 23% owned. So he's also somewhat popular here too. If you're not paying up for Skubal, is there a different pitcher on the high end that you also like?
Yeah, I like Schwellenbach. He's looked a lot better here in recent starts for what it's worth. Back-to-back 11 strikeout outings against San Diego and Boston. One of those is kind of a strikeout immune team in San Diego. So it's carrying a little bit more weight than it otherwise might. I'm not a big box score watcher, but I think Schwellenbach was one of those guys under the radar, NL Cy Young contender coming into the season. And then, he just got kind of eviscerated early on in the season. But guys get better. They get worked out. They work out the kinks. And Schwellenbach just has a mix that I really, really like. And back-to-back 11 strikeouts, you have to take note of. And then you combine that with being in such a good park for pitching. I said it before, I'm on San Francisco here, plus money on the money line purely because of what Atlanta's been doing offensively lately, but just complete collapses in judgment, 7-run losses yesterday. But I look at Schwellenbach as a guy at 10K that I want to get a lot of. So I'm looking at, I actually just reran a Sims. He was in 16.5% of lineups here, but with the field, I was well north of that here in my last Sims run. I think he's just an awesome option, and you can't ask for a better ballpark to get dropped into.
Well, it's certainly not the best ballpark to get dropped into. It's probably the worst, but Kodai Senga's numbers are exceptional this year. 1.6 ERA, 3.33 expected ERA, 3.21 FIP. Strikeouts, sure, they're down a little bit, but overall not a massive concern there or anything like that. I get it. It's Coors Field. I do have some interest in playing the Rockies simply because of the ballpark, but it is hard for me to overlook a 9K Kodai Senga against the Colorado Rockies for today. So if I'm not going to be paying up for Skubal and want to be going a little bit cheaper, give me a Kodai Senga. Field's doing a little bit as well, 23%. One thing that I do think is pretty interesting to talk about here before we get past these high-priced pitchers, we know Skubal is one of the pitchers in cash. And FanDuel, you're just playing Skubal in cash. For DraftKings, though, who are you pairing with him as a cash pitching option?
That's a great question. I think it's probably Kodai Senga, but what does a Ghost Fork do at altitude? He's never pitched in Coors. He started in 2023. I went through the entire box scores last night, and I was just like, what happens at altitude for a Ghost Fork? I went crazy trying to figure out what was going to happen with it. And it's not that Kodai Senga is just like a one-pitch wonder at this point in time. Like, the rest of his mix, I think, looks really good right now. You look at his cutter, slider, sweeper, everything across the board is very functional, especially that slider, which he throws to righties exclusively, because it breaks away in kind of a different direction. 100 batting average against, 117 expected batting average. So I don't want to say that it's all about the fork ball, but that's what he was known for coming over in 2023. That's what the pitch has been. It's been north of a 40% whiff percentage. When that thing's on, he's unhittable. And then you just see him rack up strikeouts in some of those spots. But like, what the hell happens with the Ghost Fork at altitude? Because it's not a high spin pitch. I think it still has some pretty crazy movement up there, but I'm not sure if it's anything that you've looked into. But I actually tried to find out as much as I could last night about it. And unfortunately, he's never played in Coors.
I mean, the other issue, too, is he kind of has pitches that are somewhat unique to him. Like, I don't even know how many other pitchers are throwing a pitch quite like that in baseball. It's, Daisuke Matsuzaka. Remember, he threw the mythical gyro ball.
Yes.
And it'd be like, hey, how do you dig up information? He threw like 9 or 11 different pitches or something absurd. It'd be like, how do you find data on the gyro ball? Which, if I remember correctly, also just kind of ended up being a fork ball. This is somewhat similar too. There's not any other real comparable pitch to it in baseball in the same way. The velocity, the amount it breaks, and all of that. So there is a part of it too where we're just not going to know. The good thing that I think is going to work in his favor is I don't know the Rockies could hit anything.
That is honestly the best point that you've made about the entire thing. And that's why I think, I mean, if he's pulling this much ownership and he's 9K, he's one of my favorite pitchers in baseball, but he does have a propensity to walk guys from time to time. And, they've revamped so many pieces. We have something named Orion Ritter playing shortstop for them today. I don't know what Orion Ritter is, but there's definitely Taro Estrada, who I'm familiar with. Hunter Goodman's been on planet, I don't know. He's been Ultron lately. Ryan McMahon there in the cleanup we're pretty familiar with. Going to strike out a lot against anybody, but gets walked a lot too. It's just one of those things to keep in mind when it comes to tournaments. Like Kodai Senga, I'm right around 25% of right now. And I generally am very, very inclined to accept as much chalk as possible with it. But I guess it's just an uncertainty I have over a pitch that is, as you said, it's one of a kind. It's one of a kind in baseball. And I don't know how it's going to react there at altitude. I didn't bet anything other than the over of the game. I thought it was pretty darn low with Antonio Senzatella. I got a little bit moved in my favor. Then obviously we got the news that he was not going to be starting. I apologize to everybody involved, but I've been properly put in timeout. It's all right. Kodai Senga, we're not going to know. And that's kind of the fun part of baseball, is figuring out where the appropriate amount of ownership should be for him. I think right around a quarter of the field sounds about right.
By the way, I was interested pulling him up, see what he's up to these days. Daisuke Matsuzaka, he is retired now, but retired more recently than you would have expected. He pitched into his 40s. So Daisuke Matsuzaka, he had a pretty long professional career.
But let's go.
But who really gives that much of a shit about Dice K at this point? If you guys haven't done it yet, by the way, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you got questions for us over the course of the show, throw them into the YouTube chat so that I could check out whatever it is that's on your mind and answer them. It's one of the perks of being a Stokastic sub. So for instance, if you took advantage of the UFC 316 promo code and you signed up, that's going to get you access to the Discord channel. Any Stokastic sub, it does come with access to that Discord. So let's look at the next price range of pitchers. And the rest of the way through here, Eric, there's nobody really pulling all that much ownership because Will Warren's 15% owned, Ben Brown is 24% owned, and everybody else is 7% owned, or not quite 7%, but sub 10% owned. We got a 9% ownership on Colton Gordon. Let's look at the 8K pitchers. Will Warren, 15% owned. He was on a tear of a rookie season, striking out guys left and right. And what happened? He ran into the Los Angeles Dodgers in his last start, just absolutely got his face kicked in, kind of screwed up his numbers for a lot of the year. And what it was that he was building up, wasn't able to generate swing and misses against the Dodgers. Do you think he can right the ship against the Boston Red Sox? And is he somebody you were looking to roster at his 15% ownership?
Yeah, I think he's all right to get to. I have a lot of like scrubby dubs that we'll get to here in a little bit. I think Nick Lodolo probably going to be off the board for me. Looking at the weather, I've kind of been going back and forth, paying attention to that. And we'll get to first pitch here and we'll have a better idea. I'm glad that that's an early game for my personal purposes, but there's a lot of scrubby dubs that we'll get to that I do have interest in beneath it. And a guy above it in Hayden Burnsog, who's playing absolutely no ownership right now. The pitch count looks like it's more intact. I think Seth Lugo not pulling any ownership against the White Sox is very strange to me as well. But Will Warren, I think he makes sense purely because of the strikeout rate that exists there in that price range. You kind of look at all the other pitchers. Will Warren has a 30% K rate for all intents and purposes. Now, he gets his face kicked in, as you said. He gives up hard contact, north of a 10% barrel percentage. But the individual hitters at the top of the Boston lineup don't really reflect other places, like other, like AL East teams for sure, in terms of what the strikeout rate is. Like they're all north of 21.5%, all four guys that you're getting 1 through 4. So that's a really good strikeout opportunity. At the same time, it's just like a feast or famine thing. And he's only pulling 15% ownership. It looks like the field is kind of like scattershotting the lower end of the board. Skubal is going to pull so much, out of the 200% ownership to pitcher, he's going to pull 45, 50% when it's all said and done. I like Schwellenbach. I like Senga, and we talked about them. They're far more secure than I think Warren is, but Warren has that kind of stuff, and he's got a higher top 2 percentage than like Sonny Gray. It's a comparable top 2 percentage to Schwellenbach and to Senga. I think he's a pretty darn good option and somebody that I'm currently right around 20% of.
I like him. There's another pitcher I like as well I'm going to touch on. But first, I got to give a shout out to Tyler Biddle because this is probably the best bet that you could place right now. If you guys go over to DraftKings, go to the pitcher props for the Rockies-Mets game. I just did it for myself. There is a prop up there. Which pitcher will get to 3 strikeouts first? Kodai Senga or Ryan Rollison? Ryan Rollison, who's an opener, might not be pitching more than an inning or so. Don't think he's even going to get to 3 strikeouts today. But you can bet him, or you can bet Senga versus Rollison. Kodai Senga minus 185 to get to 3 strikeouts for Ryan Rollison. I like that bet quite a bit.
Yeah, I get a little freaked out because Rollison has gone 2 innings in 2 of the 3. I've been kind of making hay the last couple of weeks, targeting guys like DL Hall, Jared Schuster. I've kind of been really tapped into these openers where I can kind of see where the market is going to land and whether it's efficient and not efficient. And we've been just smashing in the Discord with those. I've been posting a lot of those for free on X at Eric Lindquist as well. If you guys want to check it out, obviously the premium Discord, they're going to get everything first. And we got a lot of closing line value on DL Hall on both of these opener starts where you then piggyback into Quinn Priester. But for this specific spot, I want to at least point out that he has a decent enough strikeout arsenal.
He's an 18% strikeout rate, though.
Arsenal, let me finish. So it's 18% at Coors, and it's the same deal. But I don't know how this Ghost Fork is. And so like minus 180, it's a you're going to the line. You're truly, your strikeout rate also doesn't take into account the number of batters faced. So you can face 9 batters. That's a 33% strikeout rate. Even though it's like, hey, you face 6 batters, you strike out 3 of them, that's 50%. Like, you have to be a little bit careful with some of these openers. And again, this is a market that I absolutely love. I think it's the correct play, by the way. I'm just playing devil's advocate where you're doing the race to it, and it looks as though he's got 2 innings of equity. So, paying nearly, $2 to make one on everything on it. Like, it's not absolute drop everything and slam it, but I am going to bet that along with him. I think that that's a great find. I'm just playing a little bit of devil's advocate on why you don't want to like go outward and, Lindy's leans, likes, and locks, go out and lock this thing and just say that, tell all the people, tell all your friends, and, tap into your wife's account in order to be able to get more money down on it.
Well, I've got the max bet that DraftKings will allow me bet on that one, which I was actually surprised it was as high as it was. It was $22. I was pretty happy.
Let's go. Go, Greg.
So for what it's worth, also, Ryan Rolison, minor league strikeout numbers last year. He had a 13% strikeout rate in A-ball. In AAA, he had a 17% strikeout rate. And then looking at projection models for him this year, even as a reliever, he's projecting for a 15 to 17% strikeout rate. So you're betting it as well. I think I feel a little bit better about it than you, though.
Yeah, I'm going to be tapping into it for sure. I'm just got my note about it and make sure that I get that done after the show. But my main thing is like you get these curveball, like that's his primary pitch. So I had taken a look at him a little bit like a couple hours ago. Curveball, primary pitch. You get something like that going, and I do think the arsenal is set up to potentially be all right as a reliever. You don't have to expect him to go 4 or 5, where I think he'd be around that 15-17% number. And then he gets the first crack at it and the race to it. When you were looking at that market and saying, hey, you're getting the home pitcher who's going to get the advantage to be able to accomplish it first. But I do think it's a great find and a great shout out.
One thing I'm going to add to the pitching here as well, while we're in this price range, I am going to be removing the Arizona and Cincinnati game from my lineups. I just don't really love that game as is. I got to some stacks of Arizona and Cincinnati in the Sims, but there is also some weather risk there. So I'm just going to remove that game and just hope that other games are higher scoring, just because on a slate of this size and some other spots that really project well for us, I don't want to mess around with the weather too much. If it looks better as we get closer to lock, I'll just unnegative ROI boost it and have it added back in. But for right now, removing that game from my player pool. For myself, the pitcher that I'm liking in this price range, Eric, it is Bryce Miller going up against the Angels. Just because the Angels are such a beneficial matchup, I'm kind of surprised that the field isn't playing Bryce Miller. I get that he's been terrible this year. 5.36 ERA, 4.69 expected ERA. But with that said, this is still somebody who was great last year. 2.94 ERA, 3.72 expected ERA. Had a 24% strikeout rate this year. Everything's been down a little bit so far this season. I'm willing to forego some of the data from this year in the 9 starts and chalk it a little bit up to a small sample size. I just think it's a good buy low for a guy who's 7% owned against the best strikeout matchup you could possibly have.
Yeah, it's as good as it gets for a righty. You get all these righties. I bring them up all the time where you have Nolan Shanuel and nothing else because, Luis Renifo sucks at this point in time. So your only other potential lefty ever isn't very good. And then you work through what it is for Seattle in general. The thing that tips me off that makes it a little bit problematic, like working through like, hey, what is actually going on with him? He goes on a road start to Boston, gets completely lit up. He goes road start in San Francisco. He's been pretty darn good at home, but now going into Angels Stadium, it generally plays up for lefty power, but you get to face an entire lineup of righties. And not only that, outside of Shanuel, who I just talked about, and Mike Trout, there's no patient righties. Every single person is like incapable of going up there and not swinging and like that. They have no discipline. Like Jorge Soler has the 3rd best walk rate at 8.5% on the entire team. It is absurd when you like, it's a great feeling to have a pitcher who isn't pulling ownership at 7%. So I currently have 9%. I'm probably going to get a little more after talking about it and working through the process of it. But Bryce Miller, he's not going to have that 11% walk rate that he's had so much bite him as much. And you like, for me, I'm much rather, hey, if you get shelled, you get shelled. I'm trying to win tournaments. So I'm looking for like maximum upside. There's no doubt that the strikeout stuff has lacked this year for Bryce Miller. And a lot of it can be attributed to a splitter that isn't really splitting at the moment. Velocity's down 0.5 mile per hour, but I still think anytime you get the Angels and their inability to like take walks and take pitches, I think you're in a really good spot because it's basically feast or famine.
Yeah, it's To me, like, there's not that much great you could see in his numbers this year. It's more so like, hey, here's a pitcher with a decent track record and has a great matchup. So if he was going to bounce back, like, this would be the spot for it. So hopefully Bryce Miller, who, by the way, he does have one start against the Angels this year, and it's one of his only good starts of the season. As much as he's struggled this year, I mean, this Angels team is just kind of dog shit against right-hand pitching. So, the one start he had against the Angels did go 5 shutout innings with 6 strikeouts. So go Bryce Miller. Anything else you like in the 8K range?
Yeah, I like a lot. Hayden Birdsong. Why are people not playing Hayden Birdsong against Atlanta? I don't understand it. I know that they have some power hitters in the lineup. They also have some strikeouts in the lineup. Hayden Birdsong got up to 88 pitches the last 2. I think there's 90 on the table. I really don't understand. If you're trying to save salary, I get why we're going to get Ben Brown pulling as much ownership as he is against Detroit. I get why we're going to get to a Colton Gordon who gets to go up against Cleveland as a lefty. I get these reasons, but I also think if you're trying to finish out number 1 in a tournament and you get this 8K range with so many guys that I can actually make a case for, I'm going to kind of pepper the board with them in 150. And in single entry, you can kind of just take it or leave it. I really think Skubal is unavoidable in a single entry today. I wouldn't try to get cute. I think Senga is probably a nice pairing. I like Schwellenbach, who we talked about as well, but really hard to make some of those more expensive stacks that obviously have the most upside work in those kind of lineups. But maybe you turn Skubal into a Birdsong, and I could see Birdsong having massive strikeout equity. Do I think he's going to be a 25% strikeout guy as a starter? No, I don't think he's going to be that going forward. But as good as Acuna's been incredible. You're now dropping him into San Francisco with a 31.5% K rate so far this season. You have Matt Olson, 23 and change, Austin Riley, 27.5. There's so many strikeouts available. And I know 90 pitches isn't a lot. 5 1/3 isn't a lot. You don't need to even consider him whatsoever on FanDuel because I think his, chances of going 18 outs is just so much lower. But on DraftKings, you're telling me Hayden Birdsong doesn't have 7-8 strikeouts at 3%? I think you were kind of crazy. So I think Hayden Birdsong is actually a pretty appealing tournament option.
We did get a question in the chat, so I did want to clarify this, but Damani Tatum, which many people don't know, this is the brother of Jason Tatum.
Yep.
Hopefully the Achilles is healing well. So are we sure about the Reds and D-backs? So also just want to reiterate what it was that I was saying. This game has a 50% chance of rain from right around first pitch until 3 a.m. Cincinnati time. I'm not saying that the game isn't going to play. I'm saying that it has a high degree of risk, and there's just other spots I like better. So I'm just personally not going to take on that risk for today's slate. I'm not saying that it is for sure going to get canceled. I think it's 50% to play though.
It doesn't look good. It looks downright miserable. I'm taking it out of my pool.
Yeah, it's dicey. It could play. It could not play. For me, I don't think the risk is worth it relative to this slate. So that's more the stance that I'm taking. I'm not saying it's guaranteed to not play or anything like that. But if you're willing to take on that risk because you really,
I'll add one
love
thing
the game,
too.
go for it.
If this game does play clean, Gurriel probably safe, but you're looking at Randall Grichuk more than likely getting pinch hit for Corbin Carroll, Pavin Smith. There's so many paths to pinch hitting amongst the Arizona batters too, and it's a large enough slate that it's a game environment that you wish you could have exposure to because of Great American Small Park. But I think there's just so many other good spots that we'll get to when we talk about stacks that because of the pinch hit risk and no Corbin Carroll in that lineup, I think you got to be a little bit careful.
Anything else you want to talk about in the 8K range? I know we've covered it pretty extensively, though.
Yeah, we did. Seth Lugo gets the White Sox, and nobody wants to play him there. I have a little bit. He's 7% now. He's actually the 8th most popular pitcher on the slate, which I didn't see happening, I suppose. So he's kind of come up slightly. I'm right around the field, so just thought I would touch on that.
Daryl Smith wants to know, how do we take the game out of the pool? So what I do is I do a big negative ROI boost to all the players in the game because I don't actually want to take them out of the pool in general. In certain circumstances I will, but for this, it's just negative ROI boost to the pitchers and then all the individual hitters in the game. And then that will just have it that none of them end up showing up in your top lineups. 7K range, we do have a 24% owned Ben Brown here, Eric. And then if you look at the other pitchers who are sub 8K, the next most popular is Colton Gordon at 9%. So really only looking at a chalk option here in Ben Brown. He does come with considerable strikeout upside, but Ben Brown is also not good. I mean, Ben Brown, he's such an odd pitcher for DFS because he's just flat out not great. He's got a 5.72 ERA this year. Underlying numbers a little bit better with a 4.04 expected ERA. Yeah. But on the whole, this is a guy who gives up a lot of hard contact. It's one of the reasons that he's got slightly underwhelming underlying stats. And also, if you look at his minor league numbers haven't been good historically either. If you go back to 2023, the last time he pitched in the minor leagues, he had a 5.33 ERA in AAA with a 4.66 ERA. And then the other level he pitched at, he had a 4.27 ERA with a 4.11 FIP. So he's a real risk-reward option. He's going to generate a lot of strikeouts. He's also always going to be a risk to get hit really hard and give up a bunch of runs. So with that in mind, what are you going to do with him in a fairly difficult matchup on the road in Detroit?
I'm going to be hovering around the field, which isn't very interesting to talk about, but like he's 7K. I think he's your best 7K and under pitcher that we have available to us. I like him a lot more than I like Colton Gordon because of the 28% K rate. And if you're trying to win a tournament, he is the guy who gives you access to be able to get to Coors Field, to be able to get to some of these top stacks, Baltimore, to get to, the Yankees against Buehler, who I think are very underappreciated on this slate. Kansas City against Davis Martin, pulling the third most ownership. There's a lot of stacks to potentially get to that. You got money for Bobby Witt. You got money for Sal Perez. You got money for some of these guys, even though I guess they're a little bit lower now. A little over-owned in the top stacks tool, but the Mets specifically, if you want to play Coors, this is your path to getting them. I think there's going to be a high correlation between those lineups and Ben Brown, but I think there's enough paths of being different at the other pitcher spot. If you want to get away from Skubal, if you want to get away from Senga, cheaper spots that we talked about there, you can get to all the big boppers on the Mets side. And I don't think it's all that cost prohibitive. So I'll kind of embrace that. I think he's a really good option, even though there's no doubt it's terrifying. I'm on Kerry Carpenter to hit a home run today. Kerry Carpenter looks insanely good against Ben Brown today.
Yeah, so for me, I'm about in line with the field on Ben Brown. I like stacking against them. These are the pitchers who, guys who are prone to giving up big games, but they're pulling ownership. Those are the kinds of guys who I do like to stack against. So I'll be playing both sides of it. I like Ben Brown. I like stacking against him for some leverage as well. If you're saving salary with a non-Ben Brown pitcher, is there a different guy that you like pivoting to who's under 8K?
The word is not like. I can tolerate playing some Dean Kramer. It's the Athletics, and they are striking out a bunch. They are also playing in a AAA ballpark that we have proven multiple times over can be crazy. You can absolutely go ballistic, but outside of Jacob Wilson, who just doesn't strike out, everybody else in that top five does. Max Muncy, the Athletics version, strikes out an absolute metric ton. He's gotten moved up in the order. Denzel Clark, I don't know if he is capable of hitting a baseball. Is Denzel Clark capable of hitting a baseball? He's at a 56.5% K rate. And I always have to filter him out on Fangraphs from time to time because it screws up my sheets. But there are so many guys who just strike out a bunch. It's freaky. And I don't think he's good, but man, if you want to just go all bats, you got to find something else down here to get a little bit different with some Met stacks. And I think Dean Kramer's at least functional, 5.6% ownership. I like him more than, again, the Colton Gordon thing. If he ends up 10% and I click on him, he is so bad, Greg. He's so bad. Colton Gordon is terrible.
Yeah, he's not great. I do have a bet on him. I bet him under 4.5 strikeouts. That was the top bet at OddsShopper Portfolio EV right before the show started. So I got a notification right before we started. It was 22 OS rating on Colton Gordon under 4.5 strikeouts. I got it minus 110. I bet that line's moved now. Let's see.
Oh no, I'm about to bet it.
See if it moved.
Minus 125. Oh yeah, it's available. We're doing that on NoVig. Done.
All right. Yeah. So it is. Yeah. I mean, I got it at minus 110. It's minus 135 now on DraftKings. Honestly, I still think that's playable as well. Eric said he's betting at minus 125 over on NoVig. So yeah, I think Colton Gordon under strikeouts looks good. I don't really like rostering him all that much either on the road in Cleveland. If I'm going to be going cheap, one of your many nemesis, Eric.
Oh no, are we going to talk about Bailey Ober against Toronto? We're not going to do that. No, we're
He's not
not.
been terrible this year.
Oh my God. Oh no,
He's got a 3.48 ERA.
I'm already on the
3.8
floor. I
ERA.
would have fallen over just now. Stop it. Go ahead.
He's been solid pretty much his entire career. 3.48 ERA, 3.8 expected ERA this year. Last year, 3.98 ERA, 3.22 expected ERA. The year before, 3.43 ERA, 3.63 expected ERA. Projection models have him as a guy who has a true ERA expected somewhere in like the mid to high 3K range. He's generally always somebody who also generates strikeouts. I know the strikeout rate's been down a little bit this year, but it was 27% last year. It was 25% the year before. I think Bailey Ober's solid. And on a slate where we're looking to save salary because we like paying up for a Mets offense, well, I assume we do anyway. We'll talk about them when we get there. I want to find ways that I could comfortably pay up for the Mets offense and do it where I'm also being kind of contrarian in ways. And Bailey Ober is 6% owned, and I don't hate him as much as you do.
His velocity is down like 1.5 miles this year. Is it still down 1.5 miles this year? I think it's down 1.5 miles this year. He didn't have 1.5 miles to lose on his fastball. He's 6'9". He is a goober up there on the mound, and he throws it 90. Like, he throws it 90. Like, I know we're making fun of a professional athlete is always ridiculous in this situation because it's like this or that. And it's like, oh, obviously I can't do that. And he does exceptional things for a normal human being. But Bailey Ober lost a lot of velocity, and every Twins telecast, they talk about it. Every single one. They're just like, oh, Bailey Ober, never been a strikeout guy because of velocity, so I guess we shouldn't worry about it too much. And I'm like, I'm worried about it because the strikeout rate's down. Like, that's the whole thing. He's not going to get it back. It's not coming back. It's so Ober, Greg. It's so Ober.
He's made 12 starts this year. Do you know how many times he's given up more than 3 runs?
Do it off the top of my head. I got to think about all of his starts. Have I seen him get shelled this year? I don't think I've seen him get shelled this year because he used to get shelled for like 10 and he had to eat it. There's one. There was an early season start against the Cardinals. He gave up like 7. But other than, 1. I'm going to go with 1.
That's the answer. 1. Yeah. He's kind of been lights out since then.
Yeah. I think it was the first start of the year for what it's worth.
It was. Yeah. He had a terrible first outing there. 2 2/3 inning against the Cardinals, gave up 8 runs, walked 3 hitters, gave up 2 homers. Every other start this year, he's given up 3 or less runs. In fact, he's only even given up 3 runs twice since then. Every other start, he's given up 2 or less runs. And even more often than that, he's given up only 1 run. So we've now had the 12 starts he's had this year, he has given up 1 run or less in 7 of them. He's solid. He's not like the best pitcher in the world or anything like that, but he's a solid pitcher who's not pulling ownership. He's cheap, and we're looking to save salary on the slate to roster the pitchers we want or roster the batters we want. So I like Bailey Ober more than you today.
I have 0%, and I feel very comfortable with that. Bailey Ober. Yes, I have pants on, chat. I have pants on. Here are my pants.
All right, relax. Save it for your OnlyFans or Discord.
Not in the bathroom there. Although
Eric's Discord's on fire, by the way. You guys should be checking out. A couple things you should be checking out. Eric's Discord channel, absolutely. And then also the 316 promo.
Oh, my God.
If you guys weren't here at the top of the show, promo code 316, get 50% off our UFC monthly core or our monthly max package. We got a big pay-per-view card tomorrow, and then there are a number of big cards coming up after that. For the month of June, UFC 316 is tomorrow. Then we got Kamaru Usman against Joaquin Buckley the week after that. The week after that, we got Jamal Hill against Khalil Roundtree. The week after that, International Fight Week, UFC 317, Ilia Topuria against Charles Oliveira. All of those fights, you get access to our tools for 50% off if you sign up with the promo code 316. That is good for our core monthly or our core max package. Go and check it out. It's good value. This is going to be one of the better months of the entire year for combat sports. Eric, is there anything else you like on the cheap end of pitching?
No, absolutely not.
Let me go into Discord to make sure there weren't any questions that came in that we missed out on, which there are not. I'll tell you one thing that was in chat that I absolutely love to see, though. Where's that comment? Here we go. Shout out to Justin Eastman. Justin, hey, fellas, I took $100,000 down in the finals on FanDuel yesterday with the Stokastic logo up top. Bing bang. Love to see it. Do you still do the promotion if you take first place? Absolutely. If you do come in a top 3 in a GPP, here's what you do. Just add us at Stokastic HOF over on Twitter. Also play with the Stokastic avatar. And then what you do is, well, follow the steps. We got the Stokastic Hall of Fame page. But yeah, email support. And yeah, you get a free sub for that. 100K. Shout out Justin. That's sick. Absolutely love to see it. Congrats on the win. And yeah, you've gotten yourself a free sub. You've gotten yourself a free sub out of it. Justin, good shit, man. Good shit. And also for everybody else, play with the Stokastic avatar because there's no reason not to. I don't know what it is you have as your avatar right now. Maybe it's a loved one. Maybe it's a dog. Maybe it's a picture of Eric's pants. Maybe it's a picture of your asshole. I don't know. None of it's going to be as valuable to you as playing with the Stokastic avatar because all that other stuff, can it bring you entertainment at times? Sure, but it's going to get you free stuff. If you win a GPP, it won't. So play with the Stokastic avatar. And if you do have a big win in a GPP, tag us at Stokastic HOF, email support, and get yourself a free sub. All right, let's look at the FanDuel pitching, which it's not really that much different for me here, Eric. If I'm playing one lineup on FanDuel, I'm just playing this chalk in Tyreek Skubal. Is there anybody that you like to be contrarian with a pitcher on the FanDuel side, though?
Your boy Bryce Miller is sitting there at 7,700, I guess, pulling the 5th most ownership. I think that's appealing. What's weird and the main difference of the two sites today is Kadai Senga. He's 10-6 on FanDuel. I really don't want to play Kadai Senga at 10-6 with his current K prop. As you said, Tariq Skubal is 11K. FanDuel, easier to make it work to be able to get to at least a primary stack that is expensive. You could still get to Coors and play Tariq Skubal based on what I'm looking at. I just was toying around with some stuff in the single lineup sim, which I still don't think people use enough here. So if you haven't utilized the single lineup sim, I've been doing that a lot here on FanDuel lately, especially because if I do play, I'll play like one lineup like I am tonight over there. It has Tariq Skubal. I don't see a reason that you don't play him with some of the pricing over there today.
Joseph Mata says someone out there has a profile picture of Eric's asshole. I've seen it. I would like to know how you could identify it. How you see that one, just go, that's Eric's. I want to know how could you pick it out of a lineup? If there was a crime involved and there were 3 assholes next to each other and the cops said pick out Eric's, you just pick it out of a line. That's interesting. I don't know what relationship you guys have going on there. Chris Albers says, how many points would Schultz have to make it worth playing him? All the expensive batters go off and Schultz gets you 10 fantasy points. I find it very unlikely that he's going to get to 10 fantasy points. I'll pull up our projections right now and tell you where we actually have him projected. So the first thing I would say is it's unlikely he scores 10 fantasy points. The second thing I would say is on a slate of this size, where you got a lot of pitching options to choose from, like it's always going to be relative to what other pitchers end up doing on the slate. But there are so many, let's see. We actually don't even have a projection up for Schuster since he's just an opener. But realistically, you shouldn't expect more than 2 or 3 fantasy points out of him.
No, you should not.
Don't roster him.
Don't roster him. For the love of God, do not roster him.
Yeah, I mean, to get 10 fantasy points out of him, you're going to need like 3 innings or something, probably.
Facts. Yeah, the chances of him going beyond 2 are microscopic. Like very, very low. And plus, Eric Lauer has been like the perfect complement between these two guys. And I like Paxton Schultz stuff a lot. I talked about that because he is one of those failures of those starters that I've talked about. Because again, I've targeted a lot of them recently. I took an under on him that he ends up going over against Texas, went 2 2/3. But they really like getting to Eric Lauer. And you look at Minnesota's lineup today, and this is kind of the major difference. And when you have to combine your I know ball take with anything else, like Eric Lauer, they want to have face Cody Clemens if it's available to. They want to have him face Trevor Larnach, and they definitely want him to face Matt Wallner. So basically you're asking Paxton Schultz to mow everybody down through nine batters before it turns back to Larnach. So if you think he's not going to let anybody on base, you could maybe potentially find a path to hey, this is the upside. But even with as good as his stuff is, and it is very, very good, the workload is so microscopic, and they want to get to the lefty as soon as they can with this lineup.
Yeah. So if you look at Paxton Schultz, he has gone in his outings 1 1/3, 2 2/3 that have 3 innings in one. He had a 1, 2 1/3. I mean, I get he's the flat min at 4K, but yeah, I mean, it's so unlikely. Just roster like actual starting pitchers who are decent. That's the way I think you should go about building your lineups there. Anything else you want to add for FanDuel pitching or anything else at pitcher? If not, we'll move on to stacks.
Yeah, let's move on to stacks. I think the main thing to keep into account is Tariq Skubal's really, really good at pitching, but on DraftKings, he's very, very expensive. On FanDuel, where you can only play one pitcher, it's so hard for me not to click on Tariq Skubal. I would be overweight to that number currently. On DK, I'm actually pretty comfortable being, I was just below the field. Now I'm right around the field on him, right around 45%. I'm very happy with that being my allotment of Tariq Skubal.
Still coming up in chat on the Cincinnati weather, so do want to circle back on that to give you guys an update where not really all that much has changed. I still consider it to be really risky. If you guys want to take a shot on it, I'm not going to say it's impossible that it plays. I think it's very dicey to play, and there's other spots I prefer on the slate.
Should we take some unders on strikeouts there? Is it one of those spots that's going to start and we can just hope it pours?
So not even related to that, I have unders on the strikeout props for Eduardo Rodriguez and Nick Lodolo. They just projected well in Portfolio EV earlier today. Anyway,
I think I'm going to fire Lodolo. I'm just thinking about it and just hope that it plays. So here we go. NoVig again, -120.
Yeah. And, if the game is to get postponed, no big deal or anything like that. It would just get voided. I'll let you know the numbers I have right now. I'm pulling it up. All right. So I
just bet it. So
here we go. All right. I have Nick Lodolo under 4.5 strikeouts at -108. Oh, and then I have Eduardo Rodriguez under 4.5 strikeouts at -156. Erod's strikeout prop is moved to 3.5 on FanDuel, and Lodolo's is moved to -122 on the under. So I got some good CLV for the slate that's going to be starting here in a little bit. So yeah, I would like for these guys to not pitch well, or for the game to start, maybe get canceled in the middle or something like that. But yeah, I think that the unders are a good angle, but kind of irregardless of the weather situation. I think they just are good bets anyway.
There we go.
Stacks. The Mets are super popular. Antonio Senzatella, there is going to be an opener in the game ahead of him in Rollins, but Senzatella expected to pitch the bulk of the innings. Why does Senzatella keep getting starts? It is quite the mystery to me, because he's not been good forever. On top of that as well, he's had numerous injuries. He's old at this point. He's in his 30s, so there's not a prospect of him being good at some point. He's got a 7.14 ERA, a 7.22 expected ERA. Last year, in a limited amount of starts because of injury, he had a 6.57 ERA and a 9.08 expected ERA. The year before that, which was also limited due to injuries, he had a 4.7 ERA and a 10.68 expected ERA. The last time we saw him pitch a full season, Eric, was 2022, and he had a 5.07 ERA and a 5.24 expected ERA. This guy's dog shit. What does he have to do to no longer be allowed to pitch at the big league level?
Well, when you have pornographic images of the commissioner of baseball on your phone and you send them to him every single day, and then you also blackmailed the Colorado GM because you know all of the sins and would tell his wife, you get an opportunity to continue to pitch at the big league level. If it's not that, I don't know what it is, because I'm with you, where there's not a single functional reason, then Antonio Senzatella should be there. Now, as we have established on this show, he is not starting today, but he is definitely going to see some work. How much work? I mean, it would have felt a lot better to me to just have him start right from the get-go and be able to rock, but this Rockies bullpen is so shit too, so it really doesn't matter to me. Up, down, left, right. You also have Mark Vientos on the 10-day IL, which I think actually matters for guys like Brett Beatty, where if there is a lefty that comes in day off Thursday, that there's not really a problem that I have whatsoever with just firing everybody up. I don't think there's any pinch hit risk or anything to try to mine out of that at the moment. I will let it be known that Ronnie Mauricio is probably the most unimpressive batter I've ever seen at the plate. I know it was one series for the Dodgers, but I was paying very close attention to him because he's somebody that they were excited to have up. I don't know why. He looked awful to me. And Luis Angel Acuna can at least have a glove out there, and he's really, really good in that department. So just from a real-life baseball observation, I wanted to throw that in there. Batting ninth, 3K. He's probably somebody who's just going to pop up for you there. I minimized him down a little bit, although it's a batter in Coors. He's coming off of a Dodgers series. That's kind of a wild spot to get dropped into. I get it, but boy, is he unimpressive to me.
To me, the bigger question with the Mets is what do we do with them in single entry, because their top stack odds are so much higher than every other team on the slate. But this team might be 30, all the individual hitters might be 30 to 35% owned in single entry. So I hate Coors Field so much. And Antonio Sensatella, get rid of all of them. Just banish them to somewhere else.
Well, we had this conversation yesterday, didn't we? Because it was like, for me, I was going to, no matter what, roll out the Cubs. Didn't work out great, but I had happen PCA. They go yard. It ended up being all right. Matt Bush was awesome for me too. Ended up cashing the lineup. Nothing special. Didn't win anything, but it was just like you couldn't have talked me off of the Cubs. I'm not going to talk anybody off of the Mets, but I do think that the Yankees are very appealing against Walker Buehler in single entry. Walker Buehler is broken. He has been for a while. You go back to the Dodgers last year. I was happy for him. I was happy to watch him like at least succeed to some extent in the playoffs. He had some terrible starts leading into it. He had a couple of great starts there, and then he had the close. He ended up getting the final pitch out for the Dodgers in a relief appearance, if you remember that. But this year, everything just kind of looks off for him yet again. There's talks that he's potentially going to get moved back to the Dodgers. I don't know why they would want to embrace him back there unless the Red Sox are just going to eat a bunch of money there, because there's nothing that looks all that appealing. 3.95 xFIP isn't like horrendous, but a 4.73 FIP. He's got like a 17% home run to fly ball ratio. And you know who tends to hit fly balls, Greg? A lot of Yankee batters.
Anytime you could get a somewhat contrarian Yankees team 4% owned, I think that's going to be interesting, especially against a pitcher who's been struggling in Walker Buehler. Obviously, the salaries are a little bit of a concern. The Yankees are crazy, crazy expensive today. But yeah, I don't think the Yankees are a bad shout out as a contrarian offense at all. For me, I'm going to go with the Milwaukee Brewers against Randy Vasquez. There is not another pitcher who I think is more likely to face regression going forward than Randy Vasquez. He is a 3.99 ERA, but a 5.8 expected ERA and a 5.35 FIP. You look at the Milwaukee Brewers, they're only pulling 3% ownership today. Get me overweight to the field on Milwaukee against Randy Vasquez. He's an 80% strand rate, a 265 BABIP. All of these things are going to go the other way, and then he's going to be a guy the rest of the season who has like a 5 ERA or something along those lines. So I really like a low-owned Milwaukee team. I don't think there is a lower-owned offense, like a competent lower-owned offense that's in a better matchup than Milwaukee against Randy Vasquez.
I agree. And then, I mean, Dean Kramer against the Athletics, I think that one's pretty obvious as well. I like getting to the Athletics. Talking about Dean Kramer as somebody that I can functionally get to as a punt option. Oh, that's all that he is in my eyes, is a punt option. Otherwise, I think the Athletics are in a really good spot, but they're pulling more ownership than, a lot of these other teams, including Milwaukee. So I'm completely on board with you there. I guess they're pretty comparable ownership when you really break it down. Anything that isn't the Mets and isn't Baltimore today is going to pull very little ownership relative to anything else. And you can kind of click on them. Yelich, I bet, to hit a homer. So let's party.
Yeah, the only other team that's more than 5% owned outside of the Mets in Baltimore, Royals pulling some ownership against Davis Martin. They're 7.6% owned. Let's talk about the ownership on the Orioles as well. They are another chalk team who looks good for a different reason than the Mets. So the reason the Mets look really good is because they're going to be facing Antonio Sensatella in Coors Field. The reason the Orioles look good is they're going to be facing JP Sears. But on top of it, they are crazy, crazy cheap, the Baltimore Orioles. So this is the team that has, look at the top value odds in the top stacks tool. More than double the chance, or about double the chance, I should say, because we do have the Reds, who I haven't been considering just because I'm not playing that game. So outside of the Reds, they have more than 2x the odds of being the top value stack of any other team on the slate. So the Orioles, while they are going to be quite popular at 12% owned, I think they're a really good source of salary savings. You just could run into some issues if you're like, oh, I'm playing the Mets, the Orioles to save salary, Scooball, and then like Ben Brown or something. You're playing a lineup a lot of other people are playing, so I do think you need to find some ways to get away from that. That is the chalk build of the entire slate. But what do you make of the Orioles as the other popular offense tonight?
I think it makes sense. I don't completely love it purely because the bullpen's been awful for the A's, for what it's worth. That's why they went into this insane skid over the last month. But it's still a bullpen. It's not like we're getting some gas can out there eating a ton of innings. And I do have enough respect for JP Sears. I don't think he's good, but I have enough respect looking at some of the metrics on him that I think he can find ways to survive. He doesn't give a lot of free passes. That's always a plus. And then the other thing is just like the fact that he is left-handed against this Orioles team kind of neutralizes anything else that you're worried about as far as Ryan O'Hearn. I mean, Gunnar Henderson's good against most everybody. Jackson Holiday should still be leading off, but you're probably getting Laureano, Ramon Urias, Kobe Mayo, Dylan Carlson, Jorge Mateo for sure. Like you're getting that righty crew of Baltimore guys. While they're cheap, they're not very good. So I think maybe having them as like 1 and 2 man filler in some stacks, as you said, playing them alongside some Mets and things, that actually does make some sense. I probably want to be very specific with how I utilize them, but I am well underway to them as 5-man.
Yeah, and by the way, for the record, we do not have the starting lineup for the Baltimore Orioles today. I did see we had the question in chat from Green Checkmark wants to know, is Rushman a candidate to sit? DK's no props up on him. I mean, to be honest, like every catcher is kind of liable to sit on any given day. So yeah, he's definitely not a guarantee to be in the lineup or anything like that. But that is, let's see, are there any other, is that the only lineup we're waiting on now?
We have that in San Francisco, I think, is the other one.
San Francisco. Okay. So yeah, those two lineups we're waiting on. Everything else is still TBD. Any other low-owned offenses or leverage spots that you're liking for tonight?
If you have to stack against a popular pitcher, I don't see how it isn't Ben Brown. I'm not in love with it the way that I'm in love with some of these contrarian spots here, but like I did bet Kerry Carpenter to go yard. I think he's a great one-off. I think there's some really good one-offs from Detroit. I'm not in love with them as like full-on stack, but Ben Brown does have the ability to give up power, as you noted before. Wind's blowing slightly out towards that pole in Detroit. It's not great park factors, but Parker Meadows at the top of this lineup, Kerry Carpenter, Riley Green, obviously, Colt Keith, I think, 3.2K with multi-positional eligibility. There's some interesting Detroit bats, but again, more of like lineup filler for me than like full-on stacks. Is there like a popular pitcher that you want to be stacking against whatsoever?
Just what I said before in the Detroit Tigers against Ben Brown. Detroit's got a pretty good offense. Ben Brown's popular. He's not popular enough to where I'd want to play them in single entry or anything like that, the Tigers. But I do view Ben Brown as being a little bit over-owned. And then you've got the Tigers on the other side are 1% owned as a stack. They're somewhat expensive because they had all those big games against Chicago White Sox, so the prices are inflated as a result of that. But I am willing to pay up to be contrarian to get to the Detroit Tigers. They are also the third lowest owned team on the entire slate. These are the only teams pulling less ownership than the Tigers. And like these situations are not the same. San Francisco against Spencer Schwellenbach in San Francisco, and then the Cubs against Tarik Skubal. Those are the only two teams that are lower owned than the Tigers. Like even the Rockies are pulling more ownership against Kodai Senga than the Tigers are pulling against Ben Brown. So that's a leverage spot that I like a little bit, the Tigers, but not to the point where I'd play them in single entry or anything like that. Just I think they warrant consideration in large field tournaments. And now also let's look at the FanDuel side of things really quick. Is there anything that looks different to you on FanDuel relative to DraftKings in a significant way? Because to me, they're kind of the same. Mets are really popular, Orioles are really popular, and everything else is contrarian.
Yeah, everything else is contrarian. Kansas City pulling a little bit more ownership over there. Seattle pulling a little bit more ownership against Hendricks. It looks pretty comparable to me. The one that obviously I'd be getting away from Arizona, Cincinnati, purely because of that weather.
And let me do one last look in Discord. We've got Einstein wants to know thoughts on the Brewers today. Yeah, I talked about the Brewers. I like them quite a bit as a contrarian stack. I really like the spot against Randy Vasquez. And then Larson, 407, wants to know, what about the A's over Baltimore to gain leverage in the same ballpark? So there's no leverage on the A's just because of like they're not going against a popular pitcher. And then on top of it as well, like if the A's do well, it doesn't mean the Orioles do poorly or anything like that. I generally do like the A's for the slate, but if you're looking for a leverage stack, they don't really fit the qualifications for leverage. But still, I think that's a pretty good spot for the A's. And I think you had said you like the A's as well, did you not?
Yeah, they're my third highest owned stack. It's Mets, Milwaukee, and Athletics.
Yeah, and then Waylon F. Jennings says Screwball's out prop on DK is 18.5. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the highest on the entire slate. I don't think there's anybody who's higher than the 18.5 mark for Screwball today. So, Eric, any final thoughts at offense? If not, we'll do some home run picks.
Yeah, let's party. Let's get some home runs across the board for the people.
All right, and let us know in chat as well. Who are you guys picking to go yard? Let us know who your dong of the day is, and then I'll read those off on the show here. One rule: no Coors Field, and then no Aaron Judge, Shohei Ohtani. The big boppers will consider that cheating. But yeah, no
Cal
Coors
Raleigh's
Field.
Cheating now too.
Eric, who are you picking, Homer?
Yeah, Cal Raleigh's cheating too. I want to let it be known because Cal Raleigh is a god. Let's go. I mean, I talked about Kerry Carpenter. I talked about Yelich. Those are both fantastic spots. I'm playing in single entry the Yankees. So let's focus in on the Yankees, a guy who's doing some really good things as far as loft and then gets to be in his home ballpark, and Walker Buehler giving up power to everybody. I'm going to get off the board with Anthony Volpe. This is a guy that I've really been high on whenever they've been in Yankee Stadium in these confines, because it seems as though he kind of does, like, his hitting profile is basically just fly balls out there to left. And Anthony Volpe, 7 home runs on the season, doesn't look all that impressive, but a 745 OPS for the 7 hitter for the Yankees day in, day out. You get the protection of Jazz Chisholm up there now in the 5 hole. There's just a lot of really, it's Walker Buehler, man. I really do not believe in Walker Buehler going forward. Haven't for a while. Give me Anthony Volpe.
All right, I'm going to go with Gunnar Henderson. I do like this spot for him. I mean, overall, we've talked about liking the Orioles as a value stack. Gunnar Henderson got off to a really slow start to the year. He was an MVP candidate, not like a serious MVP candidate last year, just because, Aaron Judge existed. But after a slow start to the year, Gunnar Henderson, I mean, he hit 37 homers last year, he had 28 homers the year before, and those are his 2 full years that we've had of him at the big league level. A really slow start to the year, but he's starting to pick it up. He's up to 8 homers now. He's got his WRC plus up to 113, and that's even though he had, what was it to open the year? He had an 89 WRC plus in March and April. And it's been quite a bit better since then. So for the month of May, he had a 138 WRC plus. Going forward, I don't have any real concerns about Gunnar Henderson. Do have some concerns about Adley Rutschman, whether he's going to regain his MVP sort of form. Gunnar Henderson, he should be good to go going forward. From chat, let's see what we have. Right away, picks from Coors Field. Cheaters. Tom Olson is going with Matt Olson. Flim Flam Man has got Christian Yelich. Jeffrey Oran has got Caglione. We've got Jimmy D. Virgilio going. Oh, I think that's my doctor's name. He's going with Tommy Edman. Dr. Virgilio. That's my gastro. He puts his finger up my asshole. Almost Made has got Cody Bellinger. Benny Tingman has got Santana. Nightmare 1993 has got Matt Carpenter. We've got Brent Rooker for 2 homers for KB. Let's see. More Coors Field. Michael Henry has got Brent Rooker. Harlock has got Freddie Freeman. Tizzle Main is going with Duran and Devers for back-to-back homers. Green Checkmark has got, that's not how you spell Jazz Chisholm. That's not how you spell his name. Is that intentional? Or is that a typo?
It's more interesting. Or they're just perverted. You sick person. We would never say anything like that on this show. You disgusting.
This is a show. This is a family show for children. They don't say such things.
Fucking A, man. Come on.
Chris Beck has got David Fry. Taukman from Marquee Sports. Helio Ramos from Humboldt Parker. We also have Vlad from Blackhawk Magnum. Casey Leatherwood is going with Grisham and Julio Rodriguez. Red Kell also going with Caglione. We've got Tommy Tanks from Jimmy D. Virgilio. Once again, my doctor. Lawrence Butler is the pick from Clintonwood 83. So lots of A's. Tyler Soderstrom coming in from Aaron Hines. Steve Sand has got Vinny Pasquantino. Fact 74 has got Bo Bichette. Deshaun Hodge has got Duran, Ward, Chapman, and Turang. Junior Whopper's got Bellinger. We've got Josh Dibdall. Boy, I fucked up that name. He went with Christian Walker. Christian Walker was a much easier name to read off than his last name. Trevor Larnock from Darryl Smith. Ricardo Nelson's got Max Muncy. 1-2 is going with Cal Rayleigh for a double dong. G. Joyner's got Rowdy Tellez. Joseph Ramirez is going with Tyler Fitzgerald. Taco Bell's got Jazz Chisholm. Royce Lewis from Slim. And then we've got Rowdy Tellez as well from Rooster Slinky. Guys, thank you very much for watching. If you have not done it, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Final call as well, promo code 316. Get 50% off with this promo code if you sign up for a monthly core or monthly max package. And this promo is going to be expiring Saturday night at midnight. So take advantage of it, especially if you're going to be looking to play MMA DFS this weekend. Other than that, guys, thank you all very much for watching. Hope you enjoy your weekend. We'll see you guys back here on Monday. Later.